let's talk about something that happens to, well, all of us pretty much every single day. Disagreement. It can be so frustrating, right? Confusing. Sometimes it just feels like you're hitting a brick wall. But what if there's a better, more rational way to handle it all? Okay, let's get into it.
I mean, this is the big one, isn't it? Why is it that two perfectly smart, reasonable people can look at the exact same situation and walk away with two completely different takeaways? It's a puzzle. So, the way our source material first breaks this down, it looks at two big possibilities. First, is it that we're all living in slightly different realities? A plural reality. Or is it that there's just one reality, but all of us are built with different sensors, different ways of perceiving that world? But this is where things take a really interesting turn, because the argument here is that the real source of conflict, the thing that causes all the friction, isn't actually the fact that we have different opinions. Nope, the problem is something else entirely. And here it is. This is the core idea. True disagreement, in this view, isn't just having a different opinion. It's an active choice. It's the reluctance to even consider that another perspective might have value. It's when we consciously shut the door to other points of view. And the flip side of that is pretty amazing. The moment people are just willing to accept that, hey, maybe there's something to learn from another perspective, they're not really in a state of disagreement anymore. They've opened the door, and from there, they can actually find some common ground. To really get this, we've got to dig into a super important distinction that the source makes. It's all about how we form our beliefs versus how we decide to maintain them. Okay, so check this out. On one side, you have arriving at an opinion. This is just a natural process. It's what happens to us. Our life experiences, the things we see, they all add up and we form a conclusion. But holding on to an opinion, that's totally different. That's an active decision. It's consciously saying, you know what, my experiences are the only ones that count here, and I'm not even going to bother testing my ideas against anyone else's. And when you do that, when you're holding on that tightly, it has a huge consequence. You're basically building a wall around your own perspective. You end up creating this very limited individual reality for yourself, kind of like an echo chamber of one. So what's the game plan? What do you do when you run into a view that just completely clashes with your own? Well, our source lays out a really practical guide, and it's called the rational response. And let's be really clear here. This is not about being a pushover. It's not about just throwing your hands up and giving up on your own opinion the second someone challenges it. Not at all. It's about being smart and strategic. Okay, so here's the 4-step process. Step 1, someone presents a contrary view, and you just pause. You take a second to re-examine your own opinion. Step 2, you listen. And if you realize their point actually improves your understanding, it's totally rational to modify your view a bit. Step 3, if you're still not convinced, sure, you can try to explain your reasoning to them, but then there's step 4, and this one is absolutely crucial. If that doesn't work, you just drop it. So why is dropping it so important? Because if you keep pushing past that point, we all know what happens, right? The conversation stops being about the actual ideas. It just becomes an argument. It turns into this pointless struggle of egos, and that never, ever leads anywhere good. Now, to kind of tie all of these ideas together, our source leaves us with this really fantastic metaphor for how we can think about our own minds and our own perceptions. Remember how we started asking if we all have different sensors? Well, this idea suggests that maybe our sensors aren't fixed. They're actually dynamic. We have the ability to open them up or close them down. We can choose what we're receptive to. And that brings us to this great analogy. Think of your mind like a radio receiver. You actually have the power to turn the dial. You can tune yourself at will to all these different reception bands and maybe listen in on frequencies you usually just ignore. So as we finish up here, it really leaves us with a simple, but I think a really profound question to ask ourselves. In your everyday life, in all your conversations and disagreements, what frequency are you tuned to? And what other signals might you be missing out on?